The Okeechobee Utility Authority regular meeting for June 12th, 2018. I get everybody to please stand. Is you okay, Tom?
Yeah.
To join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What did you do, man? Oh, Lord. Determination of voting members. Ms. Anderson?
Present.
Mr. Clay? Here. Mr. Fadley? Present. Mr. Moldenhauer?
Here.
Mr. Myers? Here. Mr. Nelson?
Here.
Mr. Tremaine? Moving to agenda item number 2, meeting minutes of June 12th, no, of May the 8th, 2018. Any errors or additions?
Motion to accept the minutes of our last meeting of May 8th, 2018.
Motion, Mr. Nelson.
Second.
Second, Mr. Myers. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, the fun part of the job. Agenda item number 3, and I understand Ms. Carmen's not here. We're here today recognizing Ms. Carmen Gould for 5 years of service as an employee of the Okeechobee Utility Authority. Please pass on from the board and myself that we appreciate her services and look to another 5 years or longer.
Or longer.
Moving to agenda item number 4, public hearing fiscal year 19 preliminary budget and resolution 18-01. This is the first thing we need to do is open public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to open public hearing.
Motion to open up the public hearing.
Second. Motion, Mr. Nelson, second, Mr. Clay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public hearing is open. Presentation.
Mr. Chairman and board members, we have resolution 1801. I'll read it by title only. This is resolution 1801, a resolution of the Okeechobee Utility Authority, Okeechobee, Florida, adopting the preliminary budget for the fiscal year 2019, which is October 1st through 2018 through September 30th, 2019. Providing for a filing of a copy with the authority clerk and directing that a copy be furnished to the city of Okeechobee, Florida, Okeechobee County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Very good. Yes, sir.
You need to go through the budget before you adopt the resolution.
Okay.
If you
Tom, do you want to do the going through the budget before we do the public comments?
Yes.
Okay. Does everybody have a copy of the?
No.
We need some?
Yeah, I need one.
We have these other two.
All I need is one. I just need one.
Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go through the budget. We'll try to go through section by section. There quickly. Certainly, if there are any questions, comments along the way, feel free to stop and ask us as we go through it. George Gall will go through the budget on the
Morning, Board.
Come on.
Starting on page A1, if you look at the right-hand column, go down to about the third and fourth box in the right-hand column, you'll see that this preliminary budget does not have any proposed rate increases for water or wastewater. The next box shows that the total operating revenues as presented are 0.94% less than last year's budget. Go down a couple more boxes, you can see that our largest increase is in chemical expenses. It's 9.8%. A couple more boxes down, you'll see that the total for operating and maintenance expenses, not including labor, is anticipated to go up 7.3%. And then the next few boxes is a percentage increases proposed for the components of labor. Then we have the pension contribution annual rate increase. It's 16%, and that's what came out in the actuarial report, so that's what we're required to do to stay in compliance there. And in total, the operating expenses are projected to increase 4.3%. That's the bottom of page A1. Then I would direct you to page A4, line 12. Shows you that for us to be in compliance with board policy, we'll have to put in $212,296 from the rate and stabilization fund to be in compliance with board policy, because expenses are growing faster than revenues. If you go down to lines 51 and 57, there's approximately $99,000 of funds got to be put into the operating reserve fund and emergency reserve fund, again, to satisfy board policy.
Where was that? You lost me right there.
It was lines 51 and 57.
This is on page A4, if you look at the left-hand column, there's some small numbers.
Okay.
Go down to line 51, and that's where you're starting from.
And 57.
Right.
57.
All right, so we're $212,000 short.
That's correct.
Has anybody done a percentage to see what we have to raise our rates to come up with the 212 just to break even?
Yes, sir, we had.
Yeah.
We'll get that for you. And again, what the interesting, what we need to point out once again is, for years, we've had a previous rate increases that we held in abeyance for either to pay for capital costs like construction or to pay down existing debt. But we've always had some of that money remaining that we were able to put aside into the rate stabilization fund that we could use at some time in the future. This is the first year we've totally consumed all of that money, and we're spending.
Yeah, I'll probably turn that thing off. Sorry, guys.
We're spending that money now as we go. We're not setting aside any. And that's where we're running into this issue where we haven't proposed a rate increase, but if you remember back to when we did the rate sufficiency study a few months ago, they did project a number of scenarios, most of those including construction for Treasure Island, but there were a couple that did not have Treasure Island involved, and they still suggested a rate increase for this year. But we're at the point where we are near the bottom of the sort of steep barrel, in that we are now just projecting that we're going to spend more than what we're bringing in. You have the rate increase projection. You were looking at it?
We haven't done a rate increase since I've been on the board.
2010, I think, was the last rate increase.
Yeah. So since I've been here, y'all had just done one when I got on the board, so since I've been here, there hasn't been one. And that one was what, 7% or something like that? Y'all about had the world ready to...
We have it in here somewhere. If you have a 2.5% rate increase, it generates $239,000 extra. So to wipe that out, at a minimum, you would be looking at a 2.5% rate increase. Sorry, I digressed here a little bit on A4. Were there any other questions?
No, we know we got to do it. We've just been kicking the can down the road for a long time, and now we're going negative, so we've got to keep that, to me, you've got to keep that balanced and positive.
Well, the budget that we've had for capital projects, has been steadily dwindling down. We have the storage tank project coming in this year at around $4 million, which should be going out to bid pretty soon. We'll know if it's in the 4 to 4.5 million. We have West Spring Pines. It's an $800,000 project. We've got grant monies to cover $690,000. We're making that difference up. So all of these projects have been, yes, we're adding customers for some of them, but it is costing us money.
Yeah.
So going on from there.
The next page in the budget I'd like to direct you to is page A5. And page A5, lines 110 and 111 represent $1.2 million of external funding that's going into the budget, as John just indicated. Next, I direct you to page A6. And if you look through lines 119 to 149, the 149 represents $6.9 million of proposed capital improvement projects and departmental capital expenditure requests. Then if you look at line 168, if all of these things in the budget would take place, we'd end up with a balance of $4,375,000. Then I would direct you to pages, tab B, page 3, and page 4. Those pages are basically a comparison of this year's, the budget year we're in, fiscal year 18, versus the budget year fiscal year 19 proposed preliminary budget. And at the bottom of page 3, on line 40, you'll see that the proposed revenues are $10 million, basically even, which is $95,000 less than the last year's budget.
John, why is that? Do we lose those customers or what? The 95,000?
Well, if you look through this, the bulk of the money falls under the wastewater, some of it's under wastewater revenue, a little bit's under water revenue. It's just a compilation of an addition of several things. It's not necessarily losing customers per se, but it could be a matter of several things. Consumption,
Right.
Production need for water, production of wastewater, the billings. It's essentially flat is where we're at.
Yeah, again, just asking. Okay, go ahead.
Then if you go to the next page, B4, you'll see on line 72 that the total non-operating revenues is $186,000 versus $316,000, and most of that difference is because the previous year's budget did not have the 75% discount in it that we're currently providing for capital connection charges and installment and installation charges. The other major item is line 61, where the amount of money that we're getting from developers is being finally paid in full. So we only have $60,000 this year versus $122,000 last year. So if you go to the bottom of the page, you'll see that the grand total of sources of funds is $18,048,000 for last year and $18,473,000 for this year. And if you go to tab C, page C2, this is basically a comparative presentation of the fiscal year 2018 budget operating expenses versus fiscal year 2019 budgeted operating expenses. And of all those departments, the one where the largest increase is in maintenance expenses, which would be what you kind of expect. So the total on line 26 for operating expenses was basically $7 million in this year's budget and $7,290,000 next year's budget for a $300,000 increase. And again, most of those increases are for non-labor costs versus labor costs. The non-operating expenses are pretty much flat. That's on line 32, increasing only $13,000 over the previous year's budget. And you'll see that the depreciation expense, which is a non-cash charge, is $60,000. So the actual debt service costs are down, which was what we would expect from the fact that we did the refunding in March of last year. So if you go to the bottom of the page on line 44, you'll see that the grand total expenditures, not including cash and depreciation, has gone from $18,048,000 to $18,473,000, for an increase of $425,000 approximately.
Let me at least add in this section C, if you want to know how much we're spending on fuel, let's say at the maintenance department, or what the electrical costs are going to be at the wastewater plant, this is the section that you can look at. There is plenty of detail here in your book, 20 plus pages, if you will, trying to itemize what those expenses, what we're expecting to spend at each of the departments, again, for those issues of chemicals, electrical, fuel. It's pretty detailed. We like to get this detail, and we track it year in and year out. We track it throughout the year. It gives us a feeling as far as where our expenses are going versus the revenue coming in and the labor expenses. So this is kind of an important deal that we do get to track throughout the year to see how we're coming along with our budget.
Well, anything that goes on the truck's going up. Tell you that now. Anything that's hauled on the truck's going up, and it's going to continue to rise.
Well, we clearly see that, across the board. It doesn't matter whatever we touch, because everything is related to petroleum, if you will. Whether it's PVC, whether it's greases and oils, it's just all going up. And, we have some very expensive things that break.
We're seeing stuff move. Flatbed market moved 4% in 1 week, and then it moved almost 5% 3 weeks later up. We don't have any capacity.
It's unbelievable what everything is, and even when you talk about some of our specialty equipment, like the ozone equipment, bringing in people to look at it, that expense has gone up because their travel. It's remarkable, what we're dealing with, and I just don't see anything changing. It's gotten it's been flat for a long time, and we're feeling it.
With the economy doing what it's doing,
Everything's directly proportional to fuel cost, and it costs to move commodity
And
transportation to another.
all comes back.
And there's no what's out of our control.
There's 40,000 loads that didn't get delivered this morning. That'll get pushed over till tomorrow. 40,000. We're 33,000 drivers short today. Average age of a truck driver is 57. That's me.
John.
All right. The next section would be section D. Schedule G1 shows you the proposed departmental capital expenditures. It's total $720,000. Of that, in administration, the water master plan and the wastewater master plan, those were in the 018 budget, and we're deferring into the 019 budget. This particular schedule was, I think, about $770,000 last year, so it's down $50,000. If you go to the next page, you'll see the total capital expenditure improvement plan. And then you've got the FY19 budget in the left-hand column, and then the proposed plan for the future. And you'll see that that totals is $6,947,000 at the bottom of column FY19. So I'll just kind of quickly recap what we've looked at. Total operating revenue is projected to be $10 million versus last year's budget of $10.1 million. Under tab N, which we didn't look at, the capital connection charges, the AGRC and installation fees, they're budgeted to stay at the 75% discount. And that, in terms of budget dollars, that cost us $97,000. And the budgeted revenue from external funding is $1.2 million versus $1,040,000 last year. The total operating expenses are projected to be $7,290,000, which is a 4.3% or $300,000 greater than last year. And then back on page A1, you'll see at the bottom the employees are budgeted for merit increases and bonuses of 1.5% and a 1% cost of living increase, and that all totals $123,000. We budgeted urgent health care to go up 3%, which is $2,547, but there's not a budget increase for the OEA's contribution to the cost of health insurance for our staff. And that does impact our ability to retain and recruit qualified employees. And the only other thing, and I'll be done here, that's not in the budget is the proceeds from the sale of the 3 parcels, and that totals $1,870,000. And we don't have in here any Hurricane Irma expenses, and we don't have in here the recovery from the insurance from FEMA, or money from FEMA.
If I can go back to the employee health care, you have this document that's laid out in front of you this morning. And what I'd just like to show you, that our current allocation of $620, which is what the OUA contributes to each employee this month. If we talk about health care coverage being a benefit to our current employees or to attract new potential employees, the $620 projected for 2019 will only cover the health care costs for employees that elect the Blue Options 5901 program or the Blue Options 5168/5169, which is a health savings account, or Obamacare would be the other one. Again, if you get back to the contention that we use health care coverage as a benefit for our employees, yes, it is a benefit. $620. No doubt about it, that's a benefit. If we start talking about trying to use that to attract or to keep employees, then I would suggest to you the $620, which we've held constant since 2016, is diminishing with every year as the healthcare costs go up. I should also remind you that one of the reasons why we went to this, I think back in around 2010, was that it fixed the healthcare cost of the OUA, as opposed to having it from a budget standpoint, not knowing where it was going to go the next year and the year after. So historically what we've done is we've raised it to where it was slightly higher than many of the plans for the employee only, and then it held constant while the rates went up. We should, if you would like, we've held it constant again for 19, but raising that 620 to something higher may be something that this board would like to look at and/or direct a change.
We got to be careful because we're getting ready to go in and ask the community for a price increase. And we've got, and I'm all about employees and everybody here knows that. But we've also sitting here with a cost of living of 1%, merit 1.5, employee bonus of 1.5. And then if we go up here, you see what I'm reading into this?
Yes, sir.
And mine's costing me just a little less than $800 a month, my part of my insurance now, for Dinah and myself. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know who else here's on insurance like that.
Well, our employees definitely have choices, and right now we're paying them, compensating or supplementing them with the amount that does cover a couple of the plans. They
Right.
might have to adjust their lifestyle and not have the best of the best insurance.
And that's fine, and this document was only to show
No, maybe we
you.
don't have, we're giving them, well, at this point, 620, and the blue option's 563, so we're covering that cost without any doubt.
That is correct.
And now I took the best program they had. You know, I took the best one they offered,
more.
and it cost more.
They have that option.
Yeah, so
What's it gonna cost to, what is the proposed cost from 620 to what?
We didn't project one. You could look at it going from 620 if you chose, say, 675. You would add a couple more employee-only plans that would be covered. I don't think anybody's projecting to go up to, what's the most, $2,400, to cover all of the plans, which would include employees, spouses, the family coverage. But it's just something to consider when we look at the total package, what those costs are. Now, what we could do, it's buried in this document, but we could lay it all out there as far as the employee benefits package. If this was raised to a certain amount, again, I'll just throw a number out there, let's say 675 from the 620, what that cost would be relative to the total budget, along with the other proposed increases, whether that's the cost of living, the merit, bonus, whatever that the employees would see. What are those percentages relative to the total budget? I think that was actually in the beginning, wasn't it? If you go back to A1
yeah, I think we got to look at the.
in your notebook, you'll see what those costs are for the cost of living, merit increase, and the bonuses. The only one you do not see in there is what that healthcare cost would be.
It's 25,000, 51,000, and 45,000.
Yes, sir.
And
1.5% or 1.5% is what we're talking
And
about.
then you got
going up.
2,500 for the urgent care services, which is,
The total package is a shade under 400,000 without increasing the medical insurance.
397, yep.
397 is only a pension.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
yeah, it's pension contribution. So the other one's 76.
The total increases is 123 in those
Okay,
three
123.
categories on a $10 million budget.
Okay.
It's just a hair over 1%.
And let's keep in mind, what we're doing here today is just adopting the preliminary budget. We will revisit this through the summer, and as we get closer to September, that's when we would be adopting a final budget. And just to wrap up on the employed, again, I see it every month, people leaving us, and we're continually trying to hire new people.
Fair for-
And it's
It's in every market.
it's a type of situation, y'all are all been in business, you know what the cost of training an employee and the knowledge that they gain, and when they leave, poof, it's gone. And it's troubling. And I would only suggest that, yes, we keep up with our trucks, we keep up with the treatment plants, but our employees are just as important.
There's no
And
question about
There's
it.
no
So-
question, but John, the whole nation is struggling for help. The whole nation is struggling for help. And we're all being forced to do things that we've never done before, you know? I'm hiring guys with 2 years' experience. I wouldn't have done that 5 years ago for no amount of money. But now I've got to build that guy, and yes, after he's there a year, he'll find something better. So I'm a training ground because I'm a small company. So we're a small community. It's just like the sheriff's department had a couple of years ago where everybody was training here and going to the coast. You know, people were, Martin County and the res were cherry picking us. I mean, regular. So how do we correct it? We can't continue to throw money at it because they're going to go to the highest payer. Right now, the highest payer is winning, and we're seeing it. All my customers, CEMEX, Titan, all those companies are seeing it. Dude, people are bouncing. Mack trailers and East trailers are 30 miles from each other in Ohio. They both need to run 600 welders. They're running 540, and they got them bouncing back and forth. Whoever paying the most money is who that group bounces back and forth to. It's again, I see it all over the nation. So it's a problem, and
it is a problem, and I'm making sure that I convey that problem to the OUA
you're
board.
pushing it up the ladder. I understand what you're doing with it.
That it is a problem on not a day-to-day basis, but certainly a monthly basis where we lose qualified employees
Oh, yeah.
for one reason or another. And to that end, it makes you have to go back and realize what is that position worth, and understand that if you can't keep them, you're going to have to hire somebody else and coach them up and bring them along,
Yeah.
which
Also may have
costs
to do
money.
is
So
hire 2 people to fill that one position.
just when we get to this point and we start talking about the benefits, yes, there is some money going into it. I understand that. I also understand what it costs me to advertise, go through the hiring process, and then taking the new person and getting them coached up and trained to our system.
Cost me $4,000 to hire a guy.
So we just, when we're weighing the budget process, that's something that has to figure in at this level. And I'm just making sure that thought process is conveyed to the OUA board, who ultimately will provide that direction, which way we go. And it's just a part of my process that I need to make sure you're aware of what I'm seeing.
Well, we're not going to be able to compete with the other areas of Florida with a better economic stature than what we have, but we got to be able to give them the best we can for what we can afford.
Nor should we have to compete, because
Exactly.
there's other things that Okeechobee offers
That's
Well,
right.
that's out of our control, that the benefits of being in Okeechobee. And I get that. But what we can control, we do need to
We got to
make
do the
that.
best we can.
Our retirement program here is second to none. When you look at what everybody else gets and what the city and what OUA provides, it's pretty awesome.
If I put my member hat on, thank you very much.
Oh, it depends on which side you're sitting on.
Well, it depends on which hat I'm wearing at the time. But I will tell you that the pension plan is a benefit.
It is a
And
benefit.
it is a tremendous benefit for those that do elect to stay towards retirement. It is, but it's a long road to get there.
Oh, yeah.
And it does cost the OUA, a sizable chunk of change
Yeah.
every year to offer that defined benefits plan. But the unfortunate deal is that 20-year-old isn't thinking of retirement at all. And probably won't be thinking about retirement for many years. But it is something that if they do, like some of these people around me that get to stay around for 30 years, it is something that is right there. It is a benefit that they have earned and obviously will have once they do reach that retirement age.
John, if I'd have stayed with the school board, I'd have had 36 years in. But I was a 25-year-old kid too, so.
So anyway, that being said, is there anything else we can go over in the budget for you today?
We've got a lot to think about. We know where the direction that we need to help. We just are ahead. We just need to decide as a board which is the best option. And we got till September, August to propose this. So preliminarily, we know where we are. We've got some cutting expenses. Obviously, isn't one of the options to balance the budget. So.
Well, we do that every year. We do trade and do watch expenses. We have had our 6-month and review with all supervisors, tracking them, saying where are you at with your respective budget. The C section, looking at labor expenses, whether that's overtime, which there can be some control on that, fuels, greases, electricity, chemicals. We do track that, and we're doing okay this year. But it's just one of those deals. We mentioned Hurricane Irma. We've had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage. Some of it we haven't even repaired yet. That we will have that expense. Hopefully we get to seek some reimbursement from the insurance companies and FEMA, but you don't plan on something like that. You can't set aside money, and it just happens. So we have to be prepared for that. So it is the cost of doing business.
I think our ratepayers have been very fortunate for the since 2011 that we've been able to keep things where we are, but I don't think we can do that much longer.
No, I think this budget, you have to look at your $230,000. Yeah, we can find it in here, I'm sure. Trim some things up, but you still.
We'll go next year.
Yeah, I mean, we can't, we're going to keep putting it off till we got to have 10%.
No, we can't do that. We started that
You did that one
in the
time.
very beginning,
Yeah,
and we thought we were doing the right thing,
Yeah,
and we paid for it.
yeah, you're better off to do a couple percent and take it up gradually as the cost goes up.
Exactly.
Excuse me, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
was just going to say, we still, this is a living document. It is going to flow and ebb and change as the summer comes through. There will be things that we will add, certainly things that we can delete and adjust. Clearly, the idea that if either one of you have questions, you're more than welcome to call myself or George. Stop in and meet with us, and we can try to address any of those kind of concerns as we go through it.
I'm sorry, Bonnie, you want to go ahead?
No, let's go ahead.
When Murray came in and made the presentation to us, I know a lot of that was relative to the Treasure Island. But he did give us some good information. Is there, you think it would behoove us or the benefit the board to go over his numbers again, excluding the Treasure Isles at this
There were
point?
2 scenarios in there that did exactly that, and what we can do is send that to you again so you can refresh your memory on those scenarios and what he had projected as far as the 5-year window based on his growth experience at that time, what he was looking at over that 5-year window. We can either have those presentations delivered to you or emailed to you, and you can review that, and we can talk about it at the next meeting if you want.
Personally, I would like to review that again. I don't know what the other board members feel, but
Just
it
email it.
was pretty well laid out on what
Email
our-
it. To me. I told her just to email it to me.
Yeah.
So,
I think it would be beneficial.
Well, anything else for Mr. Hayford or Mr. Gall on the budget? Thank you, Mr. Gall.
So once again, we will send that out to you, Murray's presentation on what, and again, you can, there'll be, I think, I remember there was 9 or 10 scenarios. There was a bunch of them. And the bulk of them did have different scenarios with grant funding for Treasure Island. Well, those, you can look at them, but I mean, that you can kind of put aside. And then there was at least 1 or 2 where if we did not do Treasure Island, what were the expected impacts to the budget, and what were those proposed rate adjustments to offset the rising expenses and costs in the system?
I have one other question, John. I'm looking at my notes here. With our 75% capital connection cost reduction that we've done, has that been beneficial to adding customers?
Did you bring that with you?
We looked at that preliminarily, and I would say the answer is yes. We certainly could give you more detail.
Okay, but it has.
We did do that analysis. George and I directed George to go back and look at several years, 5 or 6 years, and there is a noticeable difference. But what I cannot tell you is that we cannot make that leap of faith that it was only due to the lowering of the connection fees by 75%. Because if you remember, we started doing some projects in Basswood that may or may not have happened, but I can tell you lowering the fees by 75% certainly did help people to make the decision. I just can't tell you that leap of faith that they absolutely did it because of that. So there is interest in the lower fees, and again, the issue that you always weigh is, do you lower the fees but now you've got a customer, or do you keep the fees higher and you have fewer customers? So we'll send that to you also electronically, a little spreadsheet showing you the number of connections over a time period.
Just looking at options. Any further discussion?
public comment.
Okay, now we've opened the public comment.
There's 3 of you here.
Any, keep it civil. Any?
Come on, Terry, say something. Make us feel important.
You just want to put me on the spot.
Yes.
All right, comments from the board? Yes, Jerry?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I wasn't anticipating doing this. Terry Burrows, Chairman of the Board of Okeechobee County Board of County Commissioners. One of the things I would encourage you to think about, and you may have thought about it before I got in the room, was the fact of what we're going to do with 78 West when Bass Pro comes in. What do you intend? What's your thought process about putting the sewer down there and things of that sort? Because they were here the other day. I believe, John, you guys met with them?
Yes, sir, at Scott Driver Auditorium.
Okay, so you may have something already you may have talked about before I got here today, but that would be the only thing I would suggest you start thinking about, because that would also provide you some opportunity in the southwest section, because we've had some folks talk to us about why don't you put sewer out in the southwest, just because that's a place that people could quote-unquote afford it. But I believe that quote-unquote afford it is kind of interesting, because some of the things you've done for the Treasure Island piece was quite economically feasible for people to afford it also in that plan. So that's a comment, see whether or not you guys have been thinking about that or not.
A couple of years ago, a few years ago, when there was other interest in that facility, we did a feasibility study. So it's just a matter of incorporating that study in with the new tenant, I guess you would call it, or leasing
Yeah.
coming in. And so a lot of the work's already done. We would just have to update it and look into what we could do to incorporate.
Yeah, I read your feasibility study, so that's the reason it was on my mind to see whether or not you folks had thought about it since Bass Pro was in here this last week talking about the things they're anticipating doing.
John hasn't given us a report yet other than what I read, so as soon as we find out what
What he
went
knows.
down at the meeting, we'll be able to understand a little more.
I didn't mean to take his thunder.
Now, that's in the back
Thank
there.
you. You condensed 15 minutes to 2. Thank you, sir.
I resemble everybody.
You resemble that? Any other comments from the public? All right, any comments from the board?
Close public hearing.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the hearing.
Motion, Mr. Nelson.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Clay. Second, Mr. Clay. Any discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Okay, motion to approve?
Yes, the resolution. Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 18-01.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 18-01.
Motion, Mr. Clay.
Second.
Second, Mr. Myers. Discussion? Further discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, agenda item number 5, consent agenda.
Hold on here a minute, I was looking for something.
That involves agenda item number 6, the financial report. 7, invoice from Eckler Engineering. Invoice from McNabb Hydrologic Consulting. And invoice from Thorn Run Partners.
We don't have to pull it, but is Thorn Run Partners still Del Melita in that group, or is this a different group? What did I miss?
Thorn Run Partners is Jim
federal.
Davenport, who used to be with Alcalde and Fay, and he went to work for Thorn Run. So
Okay.
we've canceled the contract with Alcalde and Fay, and we started a time, if you will, a time-dependent one with Thorn Run to see what, if anything.
I remember now. I just couldn't, the name didn't,
Yeah.
wasn't hitting the ringer. I'm good.
What's your pleasure on the consent agenda?
Motion to accept the consent agenda.
Motion, Mr. Nelson.
Second.
Second, Mr. Clay. Discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda. Agenda item number 10, purchase of a walk-behind tractor? Walk-behind ditcher, you mean? Ditch witch?
Trencher.
Trencher. Oh,
All of the
mine
above.
says tractor.
Mr. Chairman and board members, you have a picture of our 1990-something or other Ford Ditch Witch Trencher, which has seen better days, and under its present operating condition, it cannot dig a trench deep enough to have the appropriate coverage over the pipe when we backfill the trench. We looked on the Florida Sheriff's contract that has gone out to bid. There is one brand of trencher that is on this public bid, offered up from Vermeer. We did ask them to bring it by and do a demonstration for various maintenance personnel to see how it works, does it work, and by all means, this thing will trench. It does dig a trench, it's very deep, it's very powerful. It would be useful. It would be well used for all the 2-inch pipe that we've put in. It does have a cost with it, associated with it, with the trencher and the blade, and it's at $16,900. Certainly from a staff perspective, if we were to purchase this, we would recommend putting the existing trencher on a later agenda item for declaring it surplus and selling it, and then purchasing this unit, which we would hope to get 20-plus years out of it.
So you got 24 out of the last one. You think you can get 24 out of this one?
I was just thinking, it'll be 81. We don't need the next
Won't
one.
be chasing the trencher.
Well, we do put in significant amount of 2-inch pipe, when it's just a couple hundred feet to extend the water main to a new customer, that's what we use our trencher, or have used in the past. But it's to the point now where it just, there's a mechanism issue, I guess, and it won't get down but 20-something inches, which is not enough to meet the coverage requirements for our standards, which means they have to bring in other equipment to get to the proper depth if they try to use that.
I'm going to ask a question that we ask with every piece of equipment that we buy. John, warranty. What's the warranty on this?
I don't know what the warranty is on this. I would imagine it's going to be at least 12 months, but I do not know what the warranty is.
Only question I'd ask, and I think you need it, one of the things that we found with the rubber tracks on slopes is they pop off.
They can.
Have y'all,
With a minute, you're saying that.
Yeah.
About these trenchers, and they sit off from there.
yeah.
Our
Yeah,
min-
it being so narrow, but that is the only thing that I could,
On our minis, they do pop off, and we have to put them right back on. But it is an issue with this type of tracking system, whether it's like this or on the mini excavators, that even on the excavators rotating and turning,
Yeah.
it just can pop them off.
it's a trick to run one. It's harder to drive it than it is to dig with it.
So certainly from staff recommendation is, we would recommend that we would go ahead with this purchase and then declare the existing trencher as surplus of a later item in the board package.
Where's your closest dealer to this?
This one was out of Boynton Beach, I believe.
So it's close.
That was Boynton Beach, was where the Vermeer dealer. I had spoken to the Vermeer dealer out of Orlando, but I mean, it's in the area.
I make a motion that we purchase the Vermeer model RTX 250 in the amount of $16,900.
Motion by Mr. Clay,
Second.
second by Mr. Nelson. Further discussion? I know I came from the industry of electrical where we did a lot of underground work. Vermeer is a fine machine. They do the job that the ditch witches couldn't. So it's a good, sound product. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 11, surplus equipment.
Mr. Chairman, board members, you'll see a list there of different equipment. We did take the liberty to add the ditch witch into this listing, depending upon obviously what happened in item number 10. You'll see down here several trucks that we have already either ordered or received replacements for, and or the tractor. We got a zero-turn radius mower that's replaced it. So all of these items up here are replacements for vehicles or pieces of equipment that we've already purchased at some time in the past. And we would like to be able to declare these as surplus with their estimated values and direct staff to sell at some public offering. Typically what we've done in the past is use govdeals.com where we've registered it and open it to any bidding electronically, and then the buyers pay the fees for that service.
I make a motion that we surplus all the equipment listed on agenda item number 11.
Motion, Mr. Clay.
Second.
Second, Mr. Myers. Discussion. John, go ahead.
I was just going to only add one item, that that motion does tell us to surplus it. Would we want to have a second motion then as far as the sale of those surplus items? Or is that in court, or do you want to amend that motion to include the liquidation or sale of that equipment? Or is that necessary, Tom?
Well, it ought to be a two-step deal. One,
Okay.
declare them to be surplus,
Surplus, and
and
then we'll have a
two,
second motion.
second
Okay.
one would be authorize the staff to go forward with selling them.
Okay, this motion is just to surplus the items.
Correct.
Just question I have. A couple of meetings ago, when we were talking about purchasing a new vehicle, we were talking about moving one of the cranes over. Is that, I see the crane truck that's being sold. Are you taking the crane off of one? Or
There was a discussion as to whether we would take the older crane off that is, well, the discussion was taking the older crane off or leaving it on the truck and selling it as is, or buying a new crane for the new truck body that was also purchased, and the direction was to buy a new crane. So it was better to sell the older crane rather than getting it refurbished and moving it to the new truck and selling it as a package deal with the older truck, and that's what we have here.
Thank you. I knew we had discussion on it. I just couldn't recall it. Thank you. All right. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Now you need an action to authorize staff to
Sell.
sell the surplus property.
Make a motion that we authorize staff to sell the surplus equipment.
Motion, Mr. Clay, to sell.
Second.
Second, Mr. Myers. Discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 12, OUA land sales.
This is for informational purposes. It's just to wrap up the whole process that we've had going on for several months now, where we have publicly offered up 3 parcels for sale, and this gives you an idea of what the net proceeds to the OUA that we have received to date.
Just for information only, we've come into a windfall here, guys. We don't want to recklessly spend this money.
I was waiting to see what staff was going to recommend on that.
Well, the information only.
Well, right now, it's without any board action, we will find a place to park it, whether that is in the general operating account, or more likely than not, what we would find are some CDs, short-term areas that we can park the money until board gives us any direction otherwise as to how to spend that money.
Well, if you throw it back into your general fund, it just disappears. And if it goes into a CD or whatever y'all are talking about, and we earmark it for capital projects or something like that, then we know where it's at and what it's going to do. That's just my opinion.
I agree. We've got quite a bit of revenue right here that it's a shame just parking it somewhere where we're not benefiting from it. So,
Right.
So one sort of liquid account that is an investment account's my idea.
Well, we could certainly invest it in some CDs and then so mark it as, land sales fund, and it will just be parked there until we receive direction from the board as to how you want to spend that money.
Absolutely.
And we could certainly do that.
Don't we have this under items from the board later that we could make that motion, or we could do it now, couldn't we?
If you could just do it by direction if that's what you want us to do, and we'll go out and do it. I don't know that it needs a formal direction.
Let's get the opinion of everybody here before we kind of do that. You know where Tommy and I are.
And I heard him chime in, so there's,
No, I agree. I'd just like to see some options.
Agreed.
Aaron?
That's fine.
Steve?
see the options.
All right, you have your marching orders. Very good. We closed on all of them. Everything's done. Everything's finished. I'm glad that's behind us. That was kind of tedious and a lot of labor involved in that from everybody involved. Thank you, everybody. All right, agenda item number 13, OUA Employee Pension Investment Policy.
You have in front of, in your board package, an investment policy statement that has been prepared and accepted by the Board of Trustees for the pension fund. As a process, this policy statement does need to come to the OUA board for review, comments, and hopefully adoption. so that this can become the investment policy for the Okeechobee Utility Authority Employees Retirement System. We have with us the chairman of the pension. You can certainly ask questions of him. I'm also a trustee with the pension plan, and we can entertain any questions, thoughts, comments from the board.
Well, Jamie, your board and the trustees has beat this up pretty good, and you're very happy with the policies that are here?
Yes, sir. Along with our investment advisors, we've all looked at it, and just kind of fine-tuned it from the actual transfer over from the city.
As long as we don't have to make the decision on where it gets invested.
Well, the best part about that, you may not have to make the decisions, but you are responsible.
Yeah, exactly.
Those decisions. But no, this investment policy is something that we already had one since 2016 when we were started, and this just got tweaked through a couple meetings to change a few percentage marks here or investment advice there. Again, it's like the budget, it's a living document. Is it perfect today? Well, probably not. There's going to be minor tweaking at some time in the future, and this will come back to the board, with those changes at some time in the future.
But this is the document that you guys sign off on.
It provides us the framework for how, sort of like when you're talking about options for investment. These are the framework, the guidelines for the specific distribution of investments, not the specific ones. That's what we do internally with the investment advisor. But it does give us the framework of what we're supposed to do.
John, I read through the policies. I used to be a person that was a trustee on a lot of trust funds and things of this nature. So it's kind of like, I like to read stuff like this. I have no life, but I like to read now. I didn't see anywhere, and I know this is just a policy set forth, but when I was doing this, every year we would have new investment companies come in and try to wine and dine us and sell us. Do you guys, did you have that option, or are you just stuck with one and you stay with them all the time? Since the inception, I mean.
We have an investment manager, and then they have underneath them lots of different options. But they are under contract with the pension, and it either gets renewed or we go out and advertise for new investments. As well as all the professionals that are on, serve the pension fund, whether that's the pension administrator, the actuary, the auditors, all those folks are
But they
under
are
contract.
under contract, and
Yes,
they
sir.
do. Yeah, I know. They used to keep each other honest because they were always competing against each other, and it was kind of fun. I got a lot of good dinners out of it while they were trying to sell it. And
Say that again, please.
Can't do that anymore.
it was 30 years ago. All right. The only thing that I see as an issue on here is the signature page needs some correction, but other than that, it looks good to me too.
Good.
All right. We need approval of the policy.
Make a motion to adopt the OUA employee pension investment policy.
Motion, Mr. Nelson.
Second.
Second, Mr. Clay. Discussion? Discussion, being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 14, public comment. Public comment twice, 3 times. Items from our attorney.
No comment.
No comment. Mr. Hayford, you're on.
Three items. I've had to add a third item. As you can see, as was brought up earlier, there is this comment about Okatani. We did have a meeting with them between Bass Pro Shop staff and, if you will, a lot of stakeholders. I can tell you that the bulk of the meeting dealt with stormwater and wetland issues. From the water, wastewater, there were really no questions on the water. On the wastewater, they didn't offer us much information. They asked about the existing treatment plant, but they, being Bass Pro Shops, have not come up with anything definitive on their design, what their demand is, what the loadings are going to be. So the OUA really can't have a position as to which way to go, whether to refurbish the old plant or build a new plant on-site, or build a new plant off-site, or convert it all into a pump station and pump it to us, because we just don't know what their needs are out there. So we still sit in a holding pattern with that.
Do they have a timeline of any sort?
Sir?
Is there a timeline of any sort?
I think they had 12 months with which to do their due diligence as to whether they wanted to move forward with the project. But there is not a timeline on our end of it. They're just still trying to, I guess, put together a plan. They have a wonderful plan how they want to develop it, but I think they need to get through all the other issues that they might have with the wetlands and the dredge and fill and the stormwater, which my take seem to be a bigger issue than the water and wastewater.
Yeah, I think from what I see here is we're not the biggest fish to fry. They've got other things they've got to figure out before they even think about us at this point.
I can only go by what the extent of the meeting was, more on those issues than water and wastewater. The OUA, really can't help them or give them any guidance until we know what their demands are going to be. How much water do they need? How much wastewater are they going to produce? And then we have several options open to make that happen. Whether that, again, is to refurbish the old plant or build a new plant right there on site, build one off site, or change it all over to a pump station and pump it up to our existing infrastructure. But until we know whether they're talking about 10,000 gallons a day or 100,000 gallons a day, we really can't make that move. But it is very exciting. It is very positive what they're planning to build out there and how they're going to convert it. And certainly we look forward to being with them and moving forward and creating something for them out there. But that's all I can tell you about Okeechobee. There isn't much. I don't know that. They didn't share a whole lot with us.
Well, I hope you shared with them to include us in their timeline, because we don't want to be holding anybody up, but we have to have time to do our work once we find out. So I don't want to be the ones holding this project up because we're not done, because we didn't have the information.
Yes, sir. I mean, I think there, like was mentioned here, I think there are some other issues that they need to look through, and it's a very ambitious plan, and will be very, very positive for the community if it does move forward. FDP just had a general letter talking to us about the Florida reuse, what we do, where we're at with our reclaimed water system, and other than what we put down the deep well, every bit of our water goes to either on-site irrigation or off-site irrigation, and so we do try to maximize that use of reclaimed water. The other issue I would like to bring up, it was pointed out to me, our next meeting is July 10th. I think it's the Wednesday before that meeting is the 4th of July. In planning this, I looked at holidays and saw that July 4th was not going to impact our July 10th meeting. However, I would suggest that the July 4th being the week before the board meeting, it could impact board packages, either getting information from vendors or staff wanting to be on vacation. I would just like to ask if the board could consider moving the July 10th meeting to July 17th, or would that throw a monkey wrench into everybody's plans, and we need to keep it on July 10th?
I lost Katie on the 18th. I won't be here.
Sorry?
July 18th is the anniversary for Katie. I won't be here.
Okay. I mean, we can keep it on the 10th. It's just one of those deals that the week before is 4th of July, and
I can do it any other time, but that's something I can't move.
that's understood.
Yeah, so.
No, I'm fine on either one of those dates. Whatever works best for everybody, I'm fine.
It's not going to be a big meeting anyway.
No.
I mean, it's summertime.
I'm okay with either date.
Yeah.
Me too.
If you need to move it, and we'll.
Well,
get time in.
it would be, if it's preferable, I mean, we would like to move it. It just gets us away from any conflict of board preparation, you know, the financials and whatever.
We are in, we'd have to check with Ms. Robertson, make sure the room's available. That would be the only holdup.
Okay. I will check the availability of the room. Let Jeff wants to tell us right now it's okay to move. But I can get back with you by email, let you know
Yeah.
whether it will be on the 10th or the 17th.
I think everybody right now is fine with either one. So.
Okay. I will check. I'll start with the county.
I can't be on the 17th, John.
No, okay.
I've got court.
Okay, well, that just takes our alternate and one of the regular members out.
Okay.
And again, guys, it's,
10th? 10th it is.
Fine.
10th? Keep it on the 10th? Okay.
sorry, guys.
It's okay.
No.
You know, I
I
love
mean, I wish I didn't have to go.
No explanation.
Well, with both of them, it lowers us to 4 voting members. I mean, we still can meet,
On the
but we,
10th.
sir?
Keep it.
Just
10th.
Keep it at the 10th. We will. Other than that, those are my 3 items.
Thank you, John. Items from the board. At our last meeting, Mr. Myers brought up a discussion about the location and about, if you'd like to continue, or you want me to explain to the people that weren't here, refresh everybody's memory.
Go ahead.
Well, anyway, it was brought up that we're moving from our office over on 5th Street to here. We really didn't achieve what we were trying to achieve. It has not improved attendance. And with Jeff looking at the information, we only have 1 subscriber that watches us online. So we really haven't, in his opinion, done what we tried to do by coming over here. It's a great building. I mean, I love it just showing up. I know it's a hardship on Christie and staff to get us over here, but it's a great place to meet. So you were looking for options to look into going back home.
Yeah, I personally think that we didn't, like you said, we didn't achieve what we were looking to achieve. No one new has showed up. You know, is it possible if we do the renovations at the building to add in the video and the recording? I mean, I think that's the whole reason we moved here. Part of the reason was the video and recording. Right, I would like to keep that. I just don't know if it's necessary to stay here.
We can, the application has been filed through the state for the historic renovation. We, of course, the timeline is we won't find out until October, November timeframe where we rank on the list, and then we won't find out until May of next year as to whether we made it in the budget. So, and if that happens, then it's going to be October, November before the renovation starts. So it's a very lengthy process. I did go back and talk to the Acela folks who are now with Nacius, I guess. I don't know how to pronounce that. Is that the name? Granis? Granis. That name.
Granicus.
And they have, their fees have come down ever so slightly. But we could do, the bare minimum is around $7,900 to provide the service for the tape delay, if you will. And it would be around $2,500, $3,000 in cameras and cabling and PC costs. So for around shade over $10,000, we could meet the requirements of the video broadcasting our meetings from Fifth Avenue if we wanted to move back.
Right, in the interlocal agreement, it says that we have to have video recording, but we may stay here. So we are not bound by the interlocal agreement to go there, and it doesn't have to be live streaming, if I remember.
Right. I got a different opinion. Yeah, we can put it back over there, but the impression that someone comes in here to to talk to us or to put on something, I mean, look around. We can't do this over at our office over there. We can't have this facility in our office. And this facility is part of our history here in Okeechobee, and we have the opportunity to use it. And as far as not accomplishing what we did, we have accomplished. We are now transparent in every form. Somebody can look at us and whatever. We are transparent. And I just think it looks more professional being here. And again, you know, I think when people come here to talk to us, it's, you know, this is a nice place. This whole building is so nice and everything about the character. But again, that's me. I'm from here. So I'm pretty proud of this whole building.
Well, any decision that's made, it will be a board decision, and it was something that you had brought up, so we're looking into it. We've got the information that we need on what the, roughly the cost would be.
Yes, sir, it hadn't changed. I mean, like I said, they came down a little bit. It's the same as what it's been. I mean, we can certainly do it. I will throw in one little monkey wrench, that if we elect to do it, which is fine, we can do that. We may be back here anyway if they have to refurbish our building for 6 months. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, it would make sense to stay here at least through till we know what's going on there.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to say that, but I'm just saying that it's, you know, it's worth mentioning, you know, that it's, you know, if we're talking about a building renovation, it may be best to do what we're doing now and then incorporate this information in the refurbishment of the new building. So I'm just saying that's something to consider.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's just what one of our board members requested. And
Look,
we followed through with his request.
There is no doubt that we have the same public participation on site here as we do over there. We may or may not, who knows what we have out there, you know, in the, on the wide world web. But if we're talking about making the most out of the move, I don't know that I would recommend moving back and then moving back here for building renovation. I would suggest maybe we want to revisit this after the rankings come out in October, November. If we're in the top 5, then it's probably, again, pretty good shot at getting selected. If we end up at 20th, again, that
Above
tells us
15.
something. So I'm just throwing that out there, that may be my monkey wrench that I throw in this whole mix. Yes, I think we could do it. Yes, we control our own destiny when we want to have meetings, if we're on our own facility. But we do have the building renovation, so I would throw that out there.
Our agreement with the county is till January of 19?
I think we go year to year, so it'll be near the end of the year.
December. So
I think of what we have.
we should know something by then, whether to renew or get back over here. Okay. Happy?
Is that the board's pleasure then, to wait until we see what the ranking is, or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't hear him no, so I'm saying
Yeah.
All right, any other items from the board?
Yes.
Yes, Tom.
I had my septic tank pumped the other day, and Boswell come by, and he asked a question, and we've talked about this before, about accepting sewage into our plant. And I just thought about it, and I look at things 2 ways. We're dumping raw sewage on a piece of property in Fort Drum and have been for years. I say we. The community's allowing it to be done. And then we're fussing about all the the pollution that's going on in the waterways, and I know that's up on a sand ridge, and that probably the water goes back towards St. John's, I understand all that. But why wouldn't we do that to help clean up our community?
We, since we are out there, let me at least make sure we understand that the facility north of town is a permitted facility.
Yeah,
It's
so
a-
is everything out on,
I'm just saying, it's I just want to make
Right.
sure we're clear, that it's a permitted
don't make it
facility.
right.
Waste reclamation facility, if you
Yeah.
will.
And it's not raw, it's stabilized.
Yeah, it hits a shovel and sprays.
No, it's lime stabilized, so it's changed the pH and killed a lot of the bacteria.
I just want to make sure we're clear about that, you know, that it is going through a permanent facility. The question then comes to be why we don't accept or why we can't take septic tank sludge at our facility. There are a couple of reasons. First and foremost, the easiest one to deal with is we're not permitted for it. So we'd have to go through a permit modification. But to get through the permit modification, we'd have to show that we have facilities to accept it. So we have to have a special dumping facility, designed, permitted, and constructed that would then be able to accept this waste stream from the septic haulers. And therein lies the problem, because there is that investment in that infrastructure to be able to permit them to discharge. One of the other issues that we have to fall into is, and this is not a guaranteed, it's not an unknown, but it's something that we have to monitor, is where this septic is coming from and what's in it. Right now, we are classified as a domestic waste stream, and when the ultimate end product, which is the residuals that goes all the way through the treatment process, it's what's left over. We do send it to our the hot houses, if you will, to dry it, and that product is analyzed, and it comes out free of heavy metals, so that we can classify it as a AA product. And in classifying it as a AA product, we actually end up selling it to a fertilizer end user that then incorporated it with fertilizer and land, spread it outside of the Okeechobee area. So we were actually able to sell it. If we did have heavy metals come in because of the waste stream, our only option is to landfill it, and now we have to pay the tipping fee. So by accepting a waste stream in from some unknown trucking company, we don't know where it came from, there is that potential for that end product making it into our residuals, and then we have to landfill it.
So my take on that is I'd rather have you get it than I have it hit the ground.
Well, again, I mean, it's just a process. Those, you know, the other issue that we always have to consider is that we would like those people to connect to our system through piping systems rather than to have septic tanks on their site.
Well, I mean,
That's the ultimate end goal, right?
yeah, I mean, but there's 40,000 people that live here, and you got 4,000 customers. And you run within a block of my house.
We have, where there may be 40,000 people, and we have 4,000 connections, however many people that is correct. We don't serve the majority of the residential lots in this community. That is correct.
So my point is I think that if you come up with a price and get the right people involved, we could probably find some grant money out there where we could take this. And it's all about cleaning up your community. It's all about what we're going to pass on. And Harry knows more about this than anybody, right? I mean, as far as how this sewage works and all going out there.
Yeah.
So you say they dump lime in it to neutralize it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they stabilize it with lime, yeah.
What, do you make them do the same thing come to you?
But then that would impact our treatment process at the plant. About the only thing that we can do is monitor what comes in to see if there is, grease, or, whatever they've sucked out, whether it's a grease trap or a septic tank or wherever it's come from. All we can do is try to monitor what they bring us. And then we would then end up treating it. The treatment process they're talking about is the lime stabilization. You raise the pH up above 11 for a time period, and that helps to stabilize it. Our process is slightly different, and so the lime process might be more of a hindrance to our treatment.
Might hurt you more than it helps.
Right.
I'm just, I'm looking at our community as a whole, and the guy brought up a good point. He said, I'd much rather pay y'all the same money as I pay them, or even more, because I have to drive all the way to Fort Drum on every trip. Every time I'm full, I gotta go to Fort Drum.
Or other places, but Fort Drum is a pretty good distance.
Right.
Let's look into it.
And I think it's something.
The other places are a lot farther away.
Right.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it is everybody's screaming about the environment and about the lake, and I know that's not on the lake bottom. I understand that. Still in Okeechobee County. And, Mike, that piece of property you were on the first time they did soil samples, what'd they tell you?
It had been used for solid dump site, and we had to spend several $1,000s to correct that.
The metals, everything else that went in the ground out there.
Yeah.
Again, I just think if we're trying to be stewards of the land and the community, it's something we need to look at. And we have this facility sitting out here that's running at, 25% capacity?
It's
30?
probably, yeah, it's not a lot. It's maybe 35. So,
Yeah,
it's- unless it rains, then it's terrible.
Right,
but-
yeah, anyway. But I'm just saying that all this stuff, you think about all the septics, just in this community, that end up there on that piece of property.
It's a lot.
During the season of motoring, they have to go where they don't.
It's a lot, and I think it needs to be more about being good stewards and figure out what our cost would be, and see if we can't get some people involved to find some monies.
Well, we do have the wastewater master plan coming up, and that could easily be a part of that study, is to do an analysis of what it would take, what it would cost for adding the acceptance of septic treatment at the Cemetery Road facility.
Yeah, I think it's something that eventually you're going to have to do anyway. They had it. Did you go to the Solid Symposium Friday? Well, I'm learning a lot more because this group I work with, they bring biosolids in, mix it with ground yard waste, and in 6 weeks he's got compost because of the bugs he uses. And then it goes from there to his own soil company and is blended to go back into these nurseries and all to grow flowers. So it's pretty neat what they're doing. But my point is we're dumping raw sewage up there with a lime stabilizer, but it's still, that place has been there for how many years?
Long time.
A bunch?
I don't know.
Anyway, that's just something I think we need to look at. I'm done.
Any other items from the board? Being none, thank you, everybody. We are adjourned. See you in July.
10th.
Also the revenue that they bring in.
Yeah.